President Trump claims that the election was rigged. The media calls this a baseless claim. Nevertheless, President Trump is ratcheting up this claim he's pushed for many years: rampant fraud in presidential elections. He said, among other things, this is a case where they're trying to steal an election. They're trying to rig an election, and we can't let that happen. Now let's start with the Electoral College map and have a look. This is from the Cook Political Report, but it gives the updated totals for the votes counted and the electoral votes that will go to each of them when the Electoral College meets in December. Over the weekend, most of the media outlets updated the map to include Georgia. I think Fox News hasn't called Georgia yet, and the recount there may impact that. It doesn't look like it. There's a pretty wide separation at this point between the votes for Biden and the votes for Trump, but most of the media outlets have called Georgia, which would have been the last state that needed to be assigned to one candidate or the other, and it leaves Biden with 306 electoral votes and Trump with 232, which is exactly flipped from the electoral votes counted in the 2016 election, where Trump had 306 and Clinton had 232. There's also a very wide separation in the number of votes, just the raw number of votes. 5.6 million is separating these two candidates. So in terms of popular vote, it's not very close. There have been a lot closer elections in our history than 5.6 million different. And I'll also point out that 78.7 million is the most votes that any presidential candidate has ever received. So President-elect Biden and actually President Trump from this election are the only two candidates to ever receive more than 70 million votes. And when all is said and done, Biden may even get up to 80 million. I'm remembering that scene in My Fellow Americans, where Jack Lemmon says that the thing that's depressing him the most is 80 million people voted against me in the election. Well, Biden may actually get to that 80 million vote number. But at any rate, that's where we stand in the Electoral College. The legal challenges won't really affect who wins this election, and the recounts won't really affect who wins this election. Biden is going to be the victor. If you want the recounts to continue and you want the legal challenges to continue, there's a very good reason for that. It's the integrity of the electoral process, and looking forward to future elections, maybe we want things done differently in the future. Back to where President Trump is tweeting out. This was from November 15th. He said this. He's referring to President-elect Biden. He won because the election was rigged. No vote watchers or observers allowed. Vote tabulated by a radical left privately owned company, Dominion, with a bad reputation and bum equipment that couldn't even qualify for Texas, which I won by a lot. The fake and silent media, and more. There is a lot that goes into that. This question of whether the election's rigged, I'm still trying to figure out exactly what he means when he says rigged, but a few comments that have been made. On the Republican side, this is what Senator Pat Toomey said. The president's speech was very disturbing to me because he made very, very serious allegations without any evidence to support it. Senator Romney, who we know is a vocal critic of President Trump, said the president was within his rights to demand recounts and call for investigations when the evidence warranted it, but that Trump is wrong to say the election is rigged, corrupt, and stolen. And then Governor Asa Hutchinson of Arkansas, from a very red state, said it was good, actually, to see Trump's tweet that Biden won, which he starts off by saying he won. I think that's the start of an acknowledgement. We want to make sure that there is a smooth transition. And then lastly, John Bolton came out and said, that it was important for the Republican Party leaders to explain to voters that Trump did lose and that his claims of election fraud are baseless. I think as every day goes by, it's clearer and clearer there isn't any evidence. But if the Republican voters are only hearing Donald Trump's misrepresentations, it's not surprising that they believe it, Bolton told ABC's This Week. It's critical for the other Republican leaders to stand up and explain what exactly happened. President Trump lost what, by any evidence we have so far, was a free and fair election. Now, having none of that was Rudy Giuliani, the president's attorney. On Fox News over the weekend, he denied that Trump was conceding. No, 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 far from it, adding, I guess you would call it sarcastic, meaning the comment that Trump made that Biden won the election. So far, Trump and his team haven't said what he means by rigged. It is possible it has to do with something he's been saying for several months now, having to do with states that proactively mailed ballots to all registered voters. So, for example, we look back a couple of months ago, President Trump tweeted that 80 million mail-in ballots were being sent to voters that had not requested them, calling the situation unfair and a total fraud in the making. Most states where ballots are mailed out, it has to be by request of the voter. Now, I'm really interested in what the difference is between the last election and this election. So if we look, for example, at Wall Street Journal has a map here that shows which states mail out ballots proactively, which ones mail out ballots based on the person's request of a ballot and really for no reason other than the person requested a ballot, and then other states that request some kind of justification to mail out the ballot. What I'm really interested in is there are 9 states, or 9 jurisdictions you may say, because we're lumping in Washington, D.C. No, 9 states and the Washington, D.C., where ballots are automatically mailed to voters. 8 of those jurisdictions, 8 of those states, are states that Hillary Clinton won. One of them is Utah, the most red state in the United States, and it clearly didn't affect the outcome in almost all of these states. The one exception might be Nevada, which Clinton won and Obama won, but it was very, very close this time around, and Trump may have flipped Nevada if it hadn't been for mail-in voting. We don't know, but it was certainly much closer than it was during the Obama years. Now, one more thing about mail-in ballots. 5 of these states have been mailing out ballots for a long time. And in fact, according to the Wall Street Journal, routinely conduct their elections almost entirely by mail. That would be Colorado, Hawaii, Oregon, Washington, and Utah. Again, 4 of those states clearly in the blue column at this point, and Utah clearly in the red column. The outcome of the election was not decided by mailing out ballots in those 5 states. 4 states, because of COVID-19 this year, 4 states decided to go ahead and mail out ballots unsolicited to voters, and the District of Columbia was added to the list. But California, Nevada, New Jersey, and Vermont. 3 of those states clearly in the blue column. District of Columbia also uncontested. Nevada being the lone exception there that was a contested state and a closely decided state where a change this year from what we had in 2016, where Nevada went ahead and mailed out ballots to all its voters. But, again, that's a state that Clinton won. So did it change the electoral map from 2016? No. Did it change Georgia? Did it change Arizona, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin? No. So the concept of mailed out ballots, unsolicited, didn't change the outcome of this election. What does President Trump mean when he says rigged I still don't know. More information to come. Thank you for watching this video. Please comment or give suggestions below. Click on the Political Tangents icon to subscribe, and I hope you check out some more of my videos. Thank you again for watching.